Good afternoon. Everybody having fun so far? Good, good. So the title of this session is Develop Visually Stunning and Personalized Lightning Communities. My name is Ted. I'm an engineer for Salesforce. Been here about 6 years, most of the time in the Communities Cloud.
Hi, I'm Shipra. I'm working as lead engineer in Communities Cloud at Hyderabad, India.
Great. So yeah, I'm actually based out of the lovely Paris office. Nice to be back in SF though. Surprise, surprise. Forward-looking statements. So essentially this just means for nobody who hasn't seen this slide already, this essentially just means that please don't make any buying decisions based off of stuff we say we're working on, we claim we're working on, or that may be released in the future. Really, only purchasing decisions should be based off of what's available today in winter 18.
In today's session, we'll be talking about community theming, dynamic theming, and CMS Connect. Ted will be talking next about theming.
That's right. But before that, wanted to just take a moment and thank everybody. You know, yesterday when I was walking back from the Dream Fest, I was kind of eavesdropping on everybody's conversations because I was walking by myself, and everybody's talking about software and the challenges that they're facing, and they're talking about how to make things better and how to overcome these obstacles. And not a lot of people are talking about, you know, whatever they're doing on the weekend or the concert, and it was really inspiring. And it's that inspiration that I think has driven the Communities product and that drives me to try to make something really, really cool. So that's because of you, and thank you. All right, with that out of the way, let's talk about community theming. So I actually announced theming at last year's Dreamforce. We went into a little bit more depth, talked about the architecture behind things, some of the design patterns. Today we're going to do sort of a smaller recap. It's a shorter session, so we're going to do a recap of what is theming. How many people are aware of theming or have used theming in communities? Okay, so not a lot, and that's why we really want to, we actually presented this yesterday as well, so we really want to kind of show what can be done with communities. A lot of communities actually look like this. So, although we're working on trying to provide some better out-of-the-box ideas, I mean, when you see this, you say, that's a Salesforce community right away, right? And it looks great. It's worked really well. You can do quite a bit of customizations with this. You can control the entire gamma of branding colors, logos, header images, and when you get creative, we've seen some really good skins. But there's a couple things which are always the same, right? And so what we want to do with theming is to really just open this up and say, okay, like, you know, not only can we change the colors, but we want to do some drastic changes here. We want to provide a really, really rich experience. And that's kind of a tall order. So when you're looking at a community, when we're looking at the pages that I just showed, you're not just looking at a single page. You're actually looking at tons of components that have been dragged and dropped by you, some out-of-the-box components that we provide. You're looking at some app exchange components that maybe some people have dragged in. You're looking at multiple page variations. It's quite complex, but we wanted to make it simple. And so the first goal was to really build theming off of something that we knew that you're already familiar with, and that's our Lightning platform. So that's why themes were built from the ground up on the Lightning platform. And I'm going to show a little bit of code, show what that means. But themes can also be packaged and delivered over App Exchange. So in the same way you can build a Bolt solution and put it up on the App Exchange or individual components, the idea is that themes would be the same as well. So you're browsing the App Exchange, you're like, oh, wow, I really like this, this Indigo theme. Or some other fancy name, Hudson, who knows. Boom, one click, I can install that theme onto my community. And then theme APIs. So another sort of requirement about theming is that this isn't just a color swap. This has got to be much deeper, right? So we have to be able to have regions where people can drag and drop components in. We have to be able to open these themes up for customizability. They have to be reusable. They have to be extensible. And so that's why after we built the foundation of themes, we're focusing a lot on some theme APIs, and I'll talk to you about what that means in a minute. So let me just open up our builder. How many people are familiar with the community builder? Okay, cool. So most people. So you're aware of the customizations which can be done, our branding editor on the left side. When we see this, we say, yep, that's that community that we saw. This is our Capricorn Cafe community. The resolution is super low, so pardon that. It doesn't look that great. I mean, it looks all right. Done some customizations here. In all fairness, I didn't want to make it look amazing because when I switched to the theme, then it would be more drastic. So, but let's go in. Let's go ahead and do that now. So we'll switch to theme. We're going to switch to our. We have a theme tab under settings. We're going to switch to our new and improved Capricorn Cafe theme. And the background's going to refresh. But nothing changed, still looks the same. The reason is our theme actually has some code in it which says, oh, only really use this theme for guest users. Right now we're authenticated. So I have that in there to sort of demonstrate that not only your theme is not just a visual splash of color on top, it's really powerful. You have really deep integrations into your community. So let's go ahead and just open up an incognito window here. So this is our Capricorn Cafe community, which is, I should change the resolution. Anyway, as you can see, we have a full video background, okay? We have the same search. We have much more interesting, this is much more compelling experience, right? So as we've kind of talked a lot about is that it's not just employees, it's not just partners, it's also customers who could be visiting your site. And it could be customers that just stumbled across this from a random search result. Like this could just be like any dude visiting your website. So you want it to be a really compelling experience. And I promise this looks a little better when the resolution is not in projector mode. So let's go ahead and just look at what that looks like. How did we build this? So I'm going to go into developer, open up our developer console. Here's where the bad resolution really shines because you can see the code better. So this is our theme. This is a Lightning component. One thing that sort of stands out at the top you can see is that it implements force community theme layout. So this is a marker interface which essentially just designates this component to be used by communities as a theme. A lot of our interfaces, in Aura, you have traditional interfaces with method implementations, but a lot of times we have interfaces which they're just marker interfaces. Here, next we have a bunch of attributes which are typed as Aura component array. In communities world, an Aura component array actually designates a region. So your community will understand an Aura component array to be a region. What does that mean? A region is a part of it's a section of your theme where you can drag and drop components into. And so when you start to think about it like that, or a component array kind of makes sense. Right now it's an empty array, but you can drag and drop components into that. So I, as a theme developer, am saying, okay, this is a region which is open for customization. Down below, we have markup as usual, just a bunch of divs. We have our full bleed video background. Right here is where we take those regions and we inject them into our markup. So they were just declared at the top. Here we're actually composing those regions. Okay. And we'll go down. So here, this is one region which is special, and we'll talk about a couple other special regions in a moment. But this is your body. So if you think about a theme as a template, and you say, okay, pages X, Y, Z are going to use this theme, so they're going to have things in common. A lot of those parts are going to be locked, or it's going to have the same header on all three of these pages. Your v.body is what actually gets injected, and that's what's different from page to page. So when you go and you change the page layout from 2-column to 3-column, that's actually affecting the v.body. So it's really easy to just say, oh, okay, inject this page content right here. Now, navbar, profile menu, and search. Really cool thing. So we talked about theme APIs. If I declare a region in my theme called search, this is a reserved word. It's all documented. And what this means is that this region is actually, you can't drag and drop components into it. It can only be used for search. So this is really, really powerful because if you're using multiple themes, for example, or on multiple pages, on some pages you might want the search to appear as a little thing on the far left, and on some pages you might want it to be on the top. What we can actually do is if I declare a region named search, I can go into my theme properties, and I can just swap this region out, can swap the contents out for any other search component, which I've either gotten from AppExchange or I've built myself or other people have built. So this is kind of an example of what I was talking about, how we're building on top. You're able to say, okay, this is a part of your theme which can't be changed only for this purpose. And this is just another example of customizability. In this section right here, if you had any properties, so these are component properties on the right side. You can also add theme properties in your design resource file the same way you would add component properties. So if I add a design attribute type equals Boolean here, what's going to appear under my theme properties is going to be a checkbox. I can then access that Boolean value in my component to do things like toggle visibility of certain things, support strings, numbers, even combo boxes. Yeah. So that's what I just wanted to show that this is these are some of the theme APIs we're talking about, some of the expanding that we're doing on top of the Lightning components. And in the end, it's developing a theme is the same as building any other component. Here we have our CSS. It's a CSS for a Lightning component bundle, just like any other component. So let me go back and okay, dynamic theming. We'll go one level deeper. So we build these nice, rich experiences. They're beautiful. We love them. We spend tons of time building out this gorgeous, gorgeous community. But maybe that experience doesn't actually work for all of your audiences. So as we talk about how to customize your look and feel, we also need to understand how to deliver the right experience to the right person. And furthermore, how do we add variation within our themes to, depending on the audience which is viewing your community. And to that end, we introduced the audience platform. It's been around for a little bit already. We have a couple new things we want to show you there, but I'll go through some of these data points. So previously, you had one branding set per community. On the branding palette on the left side, you have all your colors, you change your colors. Now, we have multiple branding sets per community. You can have multiple different branding sets, and you can configure your audience so whichever audience is viewing, whichever audience is assigned to that branding set, they will see that branding, and I'm going to show you that. It's super cool. Other things that can be changed based off of the audience, page properties, so SEO attributes, page title, even page access rights. Theme properties, so using very basic use case, use a different theme for a different audience. And what we're working on now is component level variation. So you'll actually be able to say, okay, for this audience, these components aren't visible at all. So you're really able to change the entire structure of your page. I think Parker talked a little bit about dynamic page layouts. It's a really similar concept. Just hiding components based off of who's viewing it. Now, what are some of these pivot points? Geolocation. The example I like to use is like if somebody's visiting your site from China and it's Chinese New Year's, you can present the localized theme. You can present a completely different branding set to them based off of that. That seems to be a pretty common use case. Maybe not Chinese New Year's, but definitely geolocated holiday type things. User profile, so pretty basic. Depending if the visitor of your site is a partner, a Community Plus user, you can have different things there. And what's new in Winter 18 is domain and user object. So domain's amazing. And if you're using custom domains, I can say, oh, if you arrived at my community via this domain, then you get this branding set or this theme. If you arrived at my community via another domain, you get something completely different. So we're talking about a completely different look and feel, but it's the exact same community. User object. You can specify criteria based off of any field on the user object. So based off of their account name, you could have a different look and feel based off of that. So actually just going to show you. Enough talking. My voice is starting to go. Let's see, let's change our page variation. So the use case here is a Capricorn Cafe. They're starting to get really big. We're doing tons of Dreamforce demos about them all the time, so they're starting to get really, really popular. So we have this other page variation. It's called the white labeled page variation. Looks a little bit different. Drink coffee and do good. So one of their brands, they're starting to get some new sub-brands. One of them is called Verona, and they're all about ethical coffee bean growth and sustainability. Another one is called Murata, and that one might be about trying to get more kids to drink coffee. I don't know, it's probably a bad idea. Let's look at our branding. So this is our standard Capricorn branding here. Now instead of one branding set, we have multiple. If I change to the Murata branding, immediately you see that all those branding properties on the left side have now changed. And we've changed the fonts, we've changed the colors, we've changed the images, just with a click. If I go into Verona, same thing. So let's actually look at how we assign audiences here. So you see we have the little audience icon. You can click on that. It's going to open up our audience dialog. And let's just go ahead and edit this Murata customers. You see that the audience has been assigned to Murata. It'll give you a quick view of your criteria on the right side. But we can drill in here. So profile, we talked about that. This is user profile. So any of the user profiles in your org. Location. And then the new ones for 2018 are domain and user object. So here I've added a custom domain, which has been configured to point to my community. And for my Verona audience, which is assigned to the Verona branding set, I have the Verona URL. So this has all been saved. Make things a little bit faster. But let's just try that out. Verona-community cafe. Here we get our Verona branding because we've specified that as the audience criteria. And if I change this to Murata, we get our Murata branding. So the exact same community, same data, different look and feel depending on your audience. And that's really the power. We want people to develop one theme and add customizability to it, not have to develop multiple themes or multiple experiences with multiple different customizations. And now Shipra is going to talk about CMS Connect and how we can bring those rich experiences into your community.
Thanks, Ted. That was a great introduction on theming. Moving to CMS Connect, how many of you have heard about CMS Connect? Okay, that's cool. So it's a new feature that was launched in summer 17. It helps to bring content from external content management system into Salesforce communities in a secured and performant way. We provide support for leading CMS providers like Adobe Experience Manager, WordPress, Drupal, Sitecode, to name a few. And the design is generic enough to work with other similar CMS providers. Okay. So let's see this in action. So I'm excited to share a success story of our customer Honeywell, where using CMS Connect, they are able to get content like this header, footer, and contact support banner in Salesforce community from their website, which is built on Drupal, which has a similar looking header and footer. And just to mention it, like even though the two sites are looking similar, they are two different offerings. This is Honeywell's corporate website, and this is their Salesforce community. So content from external CMS system can be reused in Salesforce community, retaining the branding experience and look and feel of the website. And CMS Connect feature helped our customer Honeywell save development cost and time significantly, and they were able to deliver ahead of their planned time, as these integrations have become quite easy with CMS Connect. Switching back to the presentation slides. We have built two types of connectors, CMS Connect HTML and CMS Connect JSON. CMS Connect HTML helps to bring fully rendered HTML web content into communities, and it's rendered via URL, so any content having CORS enabled is brought real-time client-side into communities. Architecture is built on HTML and HTTP standards, and it's very generic architecture, and it's not a provider-specific connector. The way it works is in CMS setting, you define the public CMS server information, and during client-side rendering, XHR call is done to get the content. Also, through the HTML connector, we provide support for rendering personalized content from Adobe Experience Manager, and that is done by sharing the client context between Salesforce and AEM. Talking about CMS Connect JSON connector, it helps to bring external content management system content data into Salesforce, like blogs, articles, news, product, using JSON API. And we provide best-in-class presentation capabilities for building the UI for it. Okay, so moving to the demo for CMS Connect. This is corporate website of coffee company Capricorn that I'm going to be using for the demo. That has a header and few banners and footer. Assume the company has a Salesforce community and they want the same branding experience of this website to be available in the community. This is a Salesforce community, and as you can notice, it has the header, the coffee banner, footer, and the product banner from the corporate website of Capricorn into community. And this is done using CMS Connect HTML connector. Let me show you how the setup for it is done. In community workspace, there is a tile CMS Connect that lets you manage the CMS connection. So for the Capricorn site, I have created a connection called Capricorn AEM. And select the CMS source, which is Adobe Experience Manager in this case. If you're using any CMS provider other than those listed in this list, you can use the other option. Like we have customer using Jahia CMS or Django CMS. And the takeaway is the design is generic enough to use any CMS provider that supports the dynamic and the direct HTML rendering. In server URL, provide the server path of your CMS server. And for security reason, we support only HTTPS servers. In the root path, provide the common directory where the components are stored on the CMS server. And this path is relative to the server URL. For CSS and scripts, it's for the first time that we provide a way of injecting external JavaScripts and style sheets associated with the HTML component into communities. And this is all done in a secured way by parsing it through Locker service. Locker service, if you might be aware, is a powerful security feature for Lightning components. And it helps to prevent the component from causing any excesses or other security issues to the system. So click on Add Script, provide the script URL, and we recommend providing the scope for the CSS. Similarly for the script, you can provide the script URL. Did it stop working? It's fine. Okay. We also support localization, so you can define a mapping between CMS system language and Salesforce language, and the content will be displayed in multiple languages. For example, English user will see the English content, French user will see the French content, depending upon the user locale. So once the setup is done, go to the community builder for branding and personalizing your community. And in a community template page, there are 3 ways of using the CMS Connect HTML connector. One is header, second is footer, and the third one is a Lightning component. To set the header and footer, go to the settings. CMS Connect is a new node added here, and select your header source based on what you define in the community workspace. Provide the header path. Similarly, provide the footer path, and it shows up immediately as the header and footer of the template. And the reason we have a separate setting for header and footer is for load time optimization, so that header and footer gets loaded ahead of any other content in the page. In the component pane, we have CMS Connect HTML component exposed, and you can drag and drop it in any section of the page where you want the content. So, and select the CMS source, which is Capricorn AM in this case. And let's say that I want to bring this coffee banner in community. So I'll go and provide a path for it. And the banner shows up immediately. And let's try out something else, and we want a bigger subsection of this website, so I'll go and provide a different path. And the component will change dynamically, so you can bring any HTML content in communities in few simple steps. Now moving to the demo for the CMS Connect JSON connector. So for the demo, I'm going to be bringing blocks from this website, which is hosted on WordPress, into community. And this is a Capricorn blog site having coffee-related blocks. And I have a use case of showing this in communities for more customer engagement and information sharing. This is a Salesforce community, and as you can see, the coffee blocks from the Capricorn site is displayed over here. And we provide support for and this is all done using CMS Connect JSON connector. We provide support for two types of layouts, UI layouts for showing the JSON data. One is content list and the other is content item. Using content list, you can show multiple blog posts in a grid layout, and there is a pagination support using previous and next links. And using content item, you can show detail of a single blog post, and that can be displayed by clicking on read more link in the blog card, and it shows the detail of the blog. And this data is nothing but it's retrieved from this WordPress site. Now let's see how the setup for this is done. So as like we did for the HTML connector, go to the community workspace and create a connection for it. So I'm calling it Capricorn WordPress in this case, and select a CMS source, which is WordPress in this example, and provide the server URL. And there is a section called JSON. Click on the Add JSON button and give the name for your JSON content, and select between the two types, whether it's a content list or content item, and provide a JSON path, which is a JSON endpoint. What that means is this is the WordPress REST API way of getting blog posts from the Capricorn site. So you just need to provide this endpoint in the connection. And this path is again relative to the server URL. Once the setup is done, go to the builder for using the component, and we have exposed the CMS Connect JSON component in the component pane, so you can drag and drop the component in any section of the page where you want the JSON data to be displayed. Once you drag the component, in the property editor, select the CMS source, which was created in the workspace, which is this, and select the JSON content, which is blog list, which is nothing but the name provided here, and provide the JSON expression for the start node of your content list. For the grid layout, provide certain mapping for pagination support. And in the card layout, you need to define a mapping between your content layout attributes and the JSON field of the payload. So what that means is going to the JSON viewer of the payload and examining the data. The title data of the blog is mapped to title field of the JSON. So go back to the property editor here and put that value, and prepend it with @, which is an indicator to the data binding provider that it's a JSON expression and not any string or any literal. And similarly, define the mapping for other attributes, and you are done. In a few simple steps, you can bring the content from WordPress, and CMS Connect JSON component helps you bring JSON content from any external CMS system, and you can render it in different UI layouts in the communities. So that completes the demo for CMS Connect. Okay. Thanks again for joining the session.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? There's a mic right here.
I have a couple, so I'm happy to go last if anybody else has some. But in terms of the CMS Connect, did I hear you say that the static HTML is delivered from the original site? You're not caching it and then redistributing it? It's actually
yeah.
And then how does that work with the audiences? Is there a way to serve different header, footer, and content based on which audience, or is that something that has to be?
Like Ted was mentioning, that's coming up in future releases, like support for component level targeting in audience using audience platform. So using that, that will be possible to do so.
Yeah, components are actually add as a per instance. So when you drag and drop them onto a page, that's per instance. So that means you can have different attributes, component attributes on different pages. And then essentially you would combine that with the audience targeting for component level variation to get that.
So there shouldn't be any problem with using audiences to deliver different page variations and different content in this case?
So we actually already support page variations. You can have a different, what I was showing there was a white labeled version that was loading up based off of an audience. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Go ahead. Yeah, do you mind actually speaking into the mic? Because that way the questions actually get recorded. Thank you. It's okay.
It's a template question, not a theme question. Is that okay? Okay, so I wanted to use Napili, which has been great except for that top bar, and I don't want to hide it and just have it live there, but I do need to be able to move things around and change more than the background image. I asked this question and another thing, and they kind of alluded to that coming. Do you know if that's coming and when?
So you would like to, what exactly would you like to do? You don't want the top bar?
So the header in Napili, you can only change the background. You can't even change the logo of the little person.
Yeah.
You can't change the search bar. You can't change locations. And I need to be able to change all those things, but I don't want to just hide it and build my own when it's so close to what I need.
Right.
Or will it be open to that we can edit it at any point?
Yeah, so I don't think that we'll open it up to be edited. I think the idea is that we really want you to go in and build your own, essentially. That being said, you can make references to all those. If you want to use the logo, you can use those as expressions. You can reference all those resources. And you can combine that with the swapping behavior, the search swapping, to be able to just, if you were to define a new theme that had that search region, it would automatically have the search right in it. So it's a combination of sort of all these approaches in order to minimize the amount of work. Yeah.
The last question, sorry. The big thing that I was looking to use is it's got the authenticated user and the drop down and all of their information.
The profile menu.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to find the profile code or Salesforce best practices or anything. If I want to build my own and basically use that exact same thing, I want to build it to the Salesforce best practices standards.
Yeah, so we actually, that's definitely on our backlog. So what we have now, and I can explain why it's on our backlog still. We have something called a navigation menu, and you may be aware you can build your own navigation menus. It's really, really easy. We need the same thing for profile menu, essentially. However, when we talk about navigation, the profile menu is almost another form of navigation in and of itself. I've seen other CMSs that they have you have small you can essentially just build lists of things and then reuse those lists. So what we need to do is basically re-architect the profile menu and how the nav items work in order to go with that approach, and then we can open it up. And that's why it's taken a while to do.
+1 to that idea. Because I would love to build it. It would be super easy to build, but I would love to have the Salesforce way.
I'll email my PM.
Oh, damn it. Do you have an answer? No. Okay, so a couple questions. One, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but with this CMS Connect capability, I'm assuming that if any changes are made to whatever component we're referencing on the original site, like if we make a change to the banner on the site or the blog, we don't need to update anything in the community for that to...
Right, yeah.
Right, it's
Yeah.
just going to
It's all
automatically
real-time,
pour it over, right. And second about component level variation, I was wondering, I think you might have alluded to this or even answered it, but I don't know if I understand. You can have a, true or false, you can have a different version of the same component on different pages.
It's the same component, but as we talked about exposing attributes on those components,
Right.
those attributes would be different on all the different
Right, so like
variations.
I can have it look or do one thing on one page.
Exactly.
And have, okay, perfect.
That's precisely it, yeah. So they're kicking us out, but I'm here, I'll be right outside. We can, if there's any more questions.
Thank you.